All right, here we go. Well, it's so good to hear from you again. How's
Yeah, for
like
sure.
aside from the obvious, pandemic, like how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Because I applied for right last year and they couldn't get me a visa because I don't have my degree. So I've just gone back to university to just rush out my degree.
Right.
So I'm done in about a month and a half time. So I'm just gonna reapply and hopefully get a job this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do everything I can to help you today with that to try to get you ready for that. That's really exciting. Congratulations on your pending graduation.
Oh, thank you.
So that's great. Okay, so from looking at your portfolio, I've always loved your portfolio. It's got a lot of character to it. If there's something that I could say to sort of define your stuff is that you just have so much raw talent. And obviously talent is something that you work at to refine. I'm sure you've put in plenty of time to build these skills. But like when I look at, this piece that you have as your backdrop and it's just so nice, right? It's just so beautiful. It's sort of impressionistic in that, you don't finish it out. You've just blocked in the necessary aspects to create a mood, to create a focal point, nice lighting, the color saturations are very balanced and work well together. You manage to put red and green and blue all right by each other, but through value and saturation, you've clamped things in a way that's just very controlled and sophisticated. So kudos to you. Like you've got this amazing skill. And seriously, like looking at your effects work, like you have a knack for shapes. This isn't something that's easy to learn. It's not something that's easy to teach if you don't have some propensity toward it, some ability to get there. I think at the same time, a lot of these shapes are unrefined, right? So when I say raw talent, that's exactly what I mean. Is it's raw, it's bare, it's like new and unrefined, right? And so as we go through your portfolio, that's going to be a recurring theme. It's going to be like, how can you refine your work? How can you take these raw things that are a great first step, like blocking in these shapes and like the energy and the motion and the idea is very, very right brained in its practice. Like that's a very big challenge for a lot of folks to even do that much. But you've already cleared that hurdle. Now the next hurdle is to sort of take that right brain, carefully put a leash on it, and let the left brain lead it to polish and completion, to make sense of those forms, to refine it and render it in a way that is believable and grounded in reality and not just impressionistic, bold, clear shapes, right?
Okay.
Is any of this making sense? Are you following me so far on kind of the journey?
Uh, yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I've always kind of struggled with like polish. Polish is definitely like my weakest skill.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of those things that I kind of want, I guess, advice for how to approach it.
Yeah. So that's just the thing, right? Is I can tell that from looking at your portfolio that it's a weak point, almost to the point where you're avoiding it. My sense is that you're avoiding it because I don't see stabs or attempts at really being polished as often. I mean, there's some things, we'll get to them later. There's some that I think that you've done that are pretty well refined, but they still maintain that sort of signature Kevin vibe of still feeling flat and unrefined. It's like, but I still want a bold graphic shape in there and just kind of like smudge it in with some like rugged edges, even in the things that you've got that are more refined. So we'll dive into that. I think your biggest thing is like, take some time for yourself to just do some uncomfortable artwork that you're like, I got to make this look realistic. That's my goal with this one, is like to make it super believable and hyper real. And like you might shudder at that because you want to work it right on like a really stylized game. But I think it'll help you out of your comfort zone. If you look at a lot of the particles in League of Legends, some of them are pretty high fidelity, actually, like very well rendered clouds and lots of little details in the moats, and the shapes are nice and refined, and all these things come together to make it feel really nice and believable, but it still sits in a hand painted end of the spectrum. So I don't think it's just as simple as like, well, it's stylized, so I'll just do simple shapes, you know?
Okay.
You can't get away with that all the time. Depending on the game you work on, but even there, right? Like, these are so great, but it's not up to production quality yet. Like, you look at a game like, let me just look this up really quick. And this is just a great example of kind of what I'm trying to refer to with polish. So, how big is that? Oh, yeah, that's going to be nice. Big size. Well, it's probably too big. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you look at a game like Dofus, right? And you see what I mean about polish. And like, they've got really great block out here, like the nice foreground element, the big stones are great, the green here with the little touches of orange and all this great stuff going on. But like the grass is rendered, the rocks have this nice crisp shapes in the divisions of shadow and highlight, right? And then there's this like sort of mottled green that's laid in to make it feel mossy on the rocks. And you've got these like shafts of light that add a nice softness to the scene. And so there's like places where it's got gradient deliberately, but then other places where it's crisp and so forth. Whereas, when it's just a block in, it doesn't really come across as like a portfolio piece saying, I am ready for production.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so enough of like generalities. I want to dive into some specific pieces. Questions so far?
No, not yet. Just listening on.
Okay, I like the old effects work. We'll start with the old effects work, and then we'll just kind of move forward from there. So tell me about this piece. This looks like a League of Legends piece of some sort.
Yep. So I just wanted to do like a fan art thing for Misfortune's Make It Rain skill.
Cool. So I definitely can feel that. I think you've got a really nice indicator. The shape is really rad and well done. I like the shapes in the bullets that are coming down. I think you could do a little bit more work on the resolution of these. Like, part of this is going to be helped by shifting the focal point of those missiles so that they're not long blocks of color, but like get a nice focal point at the tip, and then have it fade much more faded in the trail so that it feels more like a motion blur. Because right now it feels like the whole thing is like a solid thing falling down versus like a solid thing at the tip with energy coming off of it. Yeah, so I would clamp that, and that'll help because then when it hits the ground, the solid piece at the leading edge will disappear like a lot more rapidly. And then that'll create a nice snap, a nice pop, where the rest of it you'll start to get opportunity for that impact to feel a little more bursty and have a little more punchy timing, so that it's this nice integrated sort of feeling of, it hits the ground and there's a reaction when it hits the ground that it bursts out. Right now, it feels like they're just floating down and sliding through the ground. With a little bit of an indication that it contacted the ground. But honestly, that blip that you have in there is getting lost in the overall intensity of that falling element. And so I'm missing the impact on that. I think the wisp around the edge is really nice. Well done. This is a nice wispy thing you got going on. And I like it. I think this is a great element here. The piece on here that I would really pay most attention to is the timing. I think the glitch theme that you have is like really fun and it's good, but you could play around with it more. I think like it just
Okay.
has like an awkward stutter of a beat. It's like you know, whereas I want to feel like I know when it's about to happen, and that's just playing around with the timing of the glitches and the wind up of everything like that.
Okay.
The follow through, I feel like the follow through of the impact, the burst doesn't give me a sense of a lot of like satisfaction and payoff for how bright and dominant that decal is. Probably the decal itself should be toned way down. I feel like it's a bit overdone. It's actually probably a lot overdone. It's pretty much up to white, and it's really high contrast and really hard lines all together. And that's all working together to just tell me something insane is currently happening right now. But then because the timing is lacking, I don't know exactly what it is. I just know that it's crazy and bright. So, maybe tone that down, and maybe it gets up to that point at the last minute or at the last second, right before it explodes, but it doesn't stay that bright the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah, so here was an example where, I actually got really excited when I saw this concept. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can imagine how that's going to move, and you've got these really dynamic shapes. And I feel like the execution that you have needs some refinement to hit really what that concept promised. This is coming up short to deliver on that promise. Like, I know,
Okay.
so the funny thing is with you is you've got all the skill to now you just need to bring it together. Like the talent's there. Like I've seen some of your work. You can time it out well. You can paint it out well. You can compose it well. You've got good color. You've got good everything. I just want to see it all happen in one effect. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all kind of scattered everywhere. It's like this one's good at that. That one's good at that. But then I'm not seeing it all sing together as one.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you feel the same way? Am I crazy here? What do you think?
No. I for sure know that guest polish and like timing is one of my weaker points. Since I'm not very good with like animation based stuff, so I do try to avoid it and just try get away with just doing like really graphic stuff.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I totally get that. Like, I stick to my comfort zones way more often than I would like to admit. The key is you've got to understand the first time you do anything, you're going to be really bad at it, and you're going to be really slow at it, which might be worse than being bad at it, right? Because it's one thing to know that it doesn't look good and that it's not working and the other people don't like it and they have feedback for you, and it's just it's like so uncomfortable. But then the fact that you have to sit in that for way longer than you normally would if you were doing something you were good at, it's like, oh, this is taking me forever and it's bad. Like, that's just the worst. I hear that 100%. But the thing of it is, anything worth doing in life is worth doing poorly. Like, all of us absolutely stink at anything that we're doing for the first time, or that even maybe we're doing it for the 50th time, right? Like it takes a lot of attempts to get good at something, and some things we're a little more naturally good at than others. That's just everybody, right? So maybe you're better at blocking things in or sketching things out or laying in clear shapes and colors or whatever. And that's great. It's just there's a lot more to it than that. And this isn't just about, like, I think it helps. So when you're struggling with something that's really slow and you're in it for hours and it's not looking good still, and you just don't know what you're even doing, and you're just getting that practice of just going through the motions of making it polished. Eventually you get fast, right? We all know that's true.
Yeah.
You start and it's painful and tedious, but eventually it becomes joyous and easy, right? But in the meantime, as you're going through that, I think what can really help to make it so that it's not so tedious, and this is like a big hack in life, is recognizing that the goal you're shooting for is not your end goal. Like, you think it's exciting to get a job at Riot Games. Well, cast your mind forward 10 years past that. 10 years at one company. Can you even imagine? Like, most people stick with a company for what, like 3 to 5 years tops? Like, it's pretty rare to go beyond 5 years. Like, you're an old timer at most companies if you're beyond 5 years, right? And so if you start looking at it through that lens of like, someday I might actually be on to even greater challenges, or I might be learning totally new things, like how to be a manager or an art director, or I don't know, like a co-founder of a small studio, or, you know, like crazy, like levels that you probably today are difficult to imagine being in school and trying to just break in. It's like, it's difficult to imagine that, right? Like someday being that. But think to yourself, okay, I'm driven now to get this big, ambitious goal. That part of me will not change once I get a big, ambitious goal. I will want another big, ambitious goal. And so you start to recognize that this is a many years process, that this is going to go on beyond what you think is the end into a new end and a new end after that. And so you start to become okay with the fact that it takes a while, that you're going to need to just be sitting there getting good at things, because settle into that now. That's a lifelong pattern. If you can master that lifelong pattern, you will be in the top 5% of people in the world that continuously grow, that continuously gain new talents, and as a result, gain new success. And you'll never be stuck. You know, you'll always be growing. So that would be my advice, to just sort of get over that hump, is realize life is all about doing things that we're bad at. That's kind of the point. That's the only way it's fulfilling, really, in my experience. I guess other people, you can probably find fulfillment through other things. But for me, the biggest thing, whether it's being an artist or a dad or an educator or anything, it's like, I just do things that I, at first, when I did it, wasn't very good at it. and then getting good at it is immensely satisfying. So yeah, I see the raw talent. I see that you can get there. It's just, you need to apply yourself and put in the time to do that, for sure.
Okay.
All right. I love these magical swords. Pretty dope. I like this. I mean, your colors are just great, man. Like the blue and purple color, the blue and pink here, like kudos to you for getting that nicely done. I think the fire is like too normal. Like these are, this one's so magical. Oh, I think this one could have a little more color depth to it. You've got some nice purple in the fringes. But I don't know. Like, I can't, it's not clear if it's ice. Maybe you could like make these shapes more clearly icy or more clearly watery. Is it water or ice?
It was just with like a blue arcane sword, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting magical. How would I get magical from that? Maybe a little more saturated blues here and there.
Okay.
Like something that feels a little more unnatural. Because right now it's like, it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it's just color either. Some of the shape language might benefit from that, but I think this one is magic just because of the color palette, and that the shapes are more like abstract and like unnatural, you know. This is reading as fire pretty clearly and pretty realistic fire. It doesn't look like it would belong in the same game necessarily.
Okay.
I don't know. Like the shapes are so detailed on the fire that this just feels like it's a different style. I don't know if that really makes sense. I'm having a hard time articulating exactly what I'm feeling about these. Sorry about that, but
no, that's okay.
I hope there's some useful stuff that you can glean from that feedback. I'll try not to be too prescriptive on how exactly you address it, but maybe you can realize in your mind, like, oh, like they're not getting that vibe I wanted. So maybe if you try some other things, they can get there.
Okay.
I think this is really fun. I like the smoke texture you have wisping off. It's pretty sweet. I am seeing a lot of repeats. I think it could benefit from a nice sprite sheet of randomization because I'm seeing the same shape, this like kind of like square shape.
Yeah.
In a lot of places and over again.
Okay.
So maybe even just that one shape is so different from all the other more curvy shapes. So it might be good to maybe round it out a little more and not make not such like a distinct, obvious shape that it's easy to pick out.
Yeah. Okay. For sure.
I do like the motion of these. Are these ribbons flying around?
Which ones?
The ones with, like the hot leading edge.
The like ash particles or the actual sword.
Not the black ones, but the bigger colored ones that kind of rotate around.
Oh, yeah, they're just kind of rotating, like a circular mesh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
they look really nice. It's a nice element. I think here's a fine example of you polishing something pretty far, but it's really just that last 5%, that last 5 or 10% to get it really honed in into something that is going to really sing. You know what I'm saying? Like you've got a lens flare, but the lens flare isn't quite behaving like a real lens flare would because it's not additive on top of this pink. Like it's not blowing it out closer to white in front of the pink. You know what I'm saying? And so, like taking a look at how lens flares behave, and you're going to want to sort it in front of the sword. Also, typically a lens flare is on the brightest part of the thing, so it's going to be either catching the white edge here, or maybe this more cyan up here. This particle, I don't know, is that a material thing, that all this color jumping around in here?
On the sword is a material.
Yeah, so like refining that material on the sword to feel a little more distinct, like some kind of clear energy sort of shimmering down it, and like make it animate in a way that feels really nice. The colors aren't quite coming together because I feel like I have the hot edge of the white, and then at the tip of the sword, which I want to be the focal point, I want that to feel good, I'm losing the white edge to the cyan for some reason. And so that's like, again, like a little refinement kind of thing, but to make it feel really polished and really high end, you're going to have to take it that last few percentage points, which again is the tedious part, which takes longer than you feel like it should. You spend so long on it, and it's so like frustrating, right? You're like, why is this taking so long when putting this whole thing together was quicker maybe than the polish phase was, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But that's kind of the way it is. It's very normal for the polish phase to take so long. But I mean, this is your portfolio. This is what you're putting out into the world to get the job of your dreams. And so spare no expense, like go all out.
Yeah.
Any thoughts so far at this point? I'm kind of just going.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm just mostly, I guess, listening. Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. It's your half hour. We treat it however you want. If you want to cut me off and be like, actually, dude, I didn't want you to talk all about this stuff. I have something else. Just let me know, and I'll jump over to you.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Cool. I've always loved this. The first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, because I love that you took the assignment in the class and riffed on it and made it your own in a few different ways, right? Like you found a color palette with greens and purples that's really cool. I really like how they play together. They play together nicely. You've got a great sense of hierarchy, of focal point, and you've taken this into a stylistic realm that I really love. That is definitely your own, and it's really strong.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I joined the VFX Apprentice thing. Is my 3D work is definitely not. I don't feel is as strong with as my 2D work, and especially with effects, I find it difficult to translate a lot of like, I guess my traditional 2D skills onto like a 3D into a 3D environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, on that note, so you've got the VFX sketchbook here, which has some stuff in the class, right? Let's see. No. Was it the demo reel? The VFX reel? I think this had like a thing or two. I mean, I think you're getting there. I mean, to be fair, yeah. So we saw. Okay, so we saw an older version of this. Let me just see.
Yeah, this reel is I think from like early 2019.
Okay.
So I haven't updated it since then because I've just been at uni pretty much.
I gotcha. Getting busy is the worst. Yeah, so the timing on this guy, by the way, the burst outward at the end is very evenly timed. I think you need to just like punch it out and then it just like hangs slowly.
Okay.
I think too, you could have some fun in the material and like how that burst out dissolves. You know, we do some talk in the class about how to create a dissolve map for that to get that to do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
I just close this. These ads are so annoying on ArtStation. Whatever. They got to do what they got to do. It's all good. I get it. Oh, that was it. That was the explosion at the end. Yeah, I think timing is definitely something for you to work on. Like, you know, just play around with it. You know, have fun with like studying the assets that are in the class that have the timing that you want, the sort of punch, and dive into those and look at the curves and what's going on to get it to do what it's doing. And then just analyze that. Take some time to analyze it. It's actually going to save you a ton of time in the long run. It's just working smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
By breaking down the assets that are working, you're going to learn a ton about how to put that polish into your own work.
Yeah.
Because those assets take us a long time to make. So capitalize on that. We spent all this time on them so that you students wouldn't have to, right? Like that's the whole point.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have a look at the Apprentice assets.
Yeah. And I thought is this like a 360 view or something?
Yeah, I don't know why it's like a embedded GIF that ArtStation has started doing.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I like that. Okay. Yeah, this was the one that I was thinking about where this is probably my favorite of all your work. It's this really distinct style. It riffs off of one of our particles in a way it feels very fresh and very fun. I think it's got a lot of really cool stuff going on. You, again, could work on the timing with it, right? Like how it comes out is all fairly like sort of, it's just growing out. Like, I don't know to think if that was threatening because the pop at the beginning, like the buildup at the beginning is super punchy. But then from there on, just everything sort of just happens on even timing.
Yeah, okay.
Now that might be the style too. Like, because this kind of is reminiscent of a lot of stuff I see in like, you know, some really fun shows on Cartoon Network, like Adventure Time or Steven Universe or something, where it's got this charm to it where they don't really mind if the things take their time to do what they're doing, because even the dangerous stuff kind of feels friendly, you know?
I think more on my end is that I don't know what to do with it, and so I just kind of like bash out whatever ends up looking okay for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just letting the tools sort of take it where it will. You're along for the ride, maybe. So it sounds like.
A little bit. So once I finished like I guess putting in all the like core elements that I've like designed and put in. After that, with like polishing and stuff, it it pretty much just feels like I'm like guessing and checking, with seeing if it looks good or not.
Yeah. Yeah, because probably the struggle there is that you're not measuring it against anything. So it's like, what's your gold standard? What's your reference?
Yeah. Okay.
Like, if you feel like you're not clear on when it's done, we talk about this too in the lecture. I think it's the first lecture for the concept for part 1. We talk about pillars. And I go back and watch that part again about how it's easy to get lost when you don't know what the goals are. And when you're doing work for yourself and it's not for a studio and you're just kind of building a portfolio, it's still really helpful to pretend that a designer has requirements for you and needs specific things from you.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then you're going to know, like, does this do damage or does it heal? Is the aesthetic of the game like Adventure Time, or is it like freaking a Pixar movie? I don't know. Like what is the aesthetic? What is the vibe? And then go from there. And you'll find that you can answer a lot of those questions that right now you're maybe like, I don't know. How am I measuring this thing? What does good look like? What's a nice fidelity standard? What's the gameplay implications? Like, you know, the one thing that we did do in the concept thing was we put little people in there, right? The little guy and the little robot, so that you can at least tell what scale it is, which already helps ground your mind into how big is this explosion relative to a character. And that tells you a lot about how detailed it should be and how energetic it should be and all these kinds of things. Well, similarly in the game, that's why we have the environment that you can run around in, so that your character that you have, the default Unreal character in there, can be a guide to inform, is this particle system working cohesively? Does it fit to a believable scale, even if it is very cartoony or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think, yeah, it's true. Like, I kind of dove in assuming what your goals were with this effect, saying, oh, it should be more punchy and threatening, but like maybe it is a heal. Maybe it's a transformation where somebody turned into something and they're putting off this thing, and I really wish it would play because it's really fun to have it up.
No, well, it is one of my, I guess, weaker points is just animation stuff, like timing and I guess polish as well.
But the gathering in shapes and the exploding shapes are just beautiful. It's great. Like, again, like the same things that come through in your 2D are really working here for you. You really just need to spend that time polishing this same effect. Like, your portfolio has enough pieces in it. You have all the right pieces in your portfolio. You just need to go back and polish them all.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
The foundation is there, and don't feel overwhelmed, because you'll find that the fifth piece that you polish is going to go way faster than the first one that you polish. And so just getting them up to par and up to a production level of fidelity that a studio is going to say, oh, we could put those in our game today, you know? Like, they don't need more refinement. We know that he can take it all the way to the finish line. Being able to showcase that is really just, it's going to go a long way for you. And, you know, if you need ideas on how to polish things, look up reference and ask the community.
Yeah, okay. I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Have you got anything else for me before we go?
Not that I can think of. Is it okay if I just like pass my portfolio before I like formally apply again, just to get a quick review?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
And I will opt myself out of the group of people that will be reviewing it. So there's no conflict of interest.
All right.
Yeah, for sure, man. Send it on over and I will let you know.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks. Thanks for your time.
Of course. Good luck to you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.